Hello, this is Warpath 1985 speaking today's special Thanksgiving review. I shall be discussing the Transformers Legacy United Star Seekers Collection. Now, the Star Seekers Collection was released back in 2024, last year, as a more exclusive toy line. However, its distribution was quite spotty, especially for certain figures and obviously the 3-pack that was released. Now, I was able to find some of them in stores, but most of them I was only able to really find on deep discount either on the Walmart website or also on the secondary market, and especially at Ross, which is where I got the Thundertron figure and the Menagerie figures that comes with them. Now, mostly the entire collection is centered around the Star Seekers characters in general, the group as themselves in general. That was featured both in the original Prime Almanac, but Exodus novel, I believe it was called. I believe it's Exodus, I can't quite remember. And also the Transformers Prime, also not Prime, like the Covenant Primus, I believe they're also in there too. Mostly this just Thundertron, I believe. I might be correct by that. And also some other supplementary media. However, they're mostly well known for their appearance in the Fun Publications Wings Universe series, which has timelines, I believe. It's very confusing which one kind of call it nowadays, but generally I mostly consider this Wings Universe, which is the universe that takes place during the original cartoon continuity where the rebirth takes place. So that's pretty much what the Wings Universe technically is. Not the Japanese Headmaster Universe is one that most of the Transformers community accepts, because that continuity is a lot more cooler in general. However, this group encompasses a lot of different characters. Even characters that weren't even part of the Star Seekers, but were actually part of a different power group, that being the Titan Hunters from the IDW comic books, which is why Lockdown was even here in the first place, because he was part of the Titan Hunters power group. I think it's called Titan Hunters. I might be correct by that, but generally that's the history of most of them. Of course, most of these figures are generally supposed to be reimaginings of the previous versions. Filch obviously appeared in the Transformers Disguise cartoon series, however she was a lot more different. So was Cannonball, where he appeared mainly in the Transformers Fun Publications comic books. Not so much I believe at the media, but mainly just Fun Publications. He also is very faithful to his original figure. However, it does take some sort of deviations to be more accurate to that. Accurate generally to describe him was because he's a retool, just redeco in some areas, but generally he's a retool of the skid / crankcase mold. The same also applies with other figures like Road Pig and Lockdown, who are pretty much some sort of like weird head swaps / redecos of both not Scrap Hook, it was Scrap. Ooh, I forgot his name. But he was one of the Junkyard's Junkyards released back in Evolution, and also Scrap Hook and the Axle Grease mold, which was used to make, well, Lockdown. We're talking was a pre-tool to Lockdown. You'll have Calcitron, who is generally just a remold, just head swap of the Magnus mold, primarily Magnus, mind you, not so much Nucleon. And so does apply similarly to Thundertron. However, he had just a lot more new parts. And also does Nightstreak, I believe his name is. Nightscream or Nightstreak. Who is essentially reuses the entire mold of I forget his name, but he was the Power Master that goes with Double Dealer. I believe he used the entire mold from him, and because I think he is new from what I can really tell from the general figure. And so does also apply to generally with Ferrac, or Ferrax, as generally they're doing what but preppers call it Ferrac, who is obviously based off his Fun Publications, says Transformers Con, TF Con, whatever, it's TF Con, figure. However, he is obviously based off the new Sarcomas mold and is much more of a heavy retool, similarly to that of Cannonball, unlike the other figures in this general set where they're just more as partials, where they have new parts in certain areas but also the same general parts in others, or reuse the entire original body with the brand new head. So, with that general context aside, and also showing off all the sorts of figures that these figures, what these figures in this general line are based off of, or homogeneing some sort of way, I'm first discussing the figure that I was most certainly excited about and one I really wanted, which is Lockdown. Now, Lockdown was a very interesting figure since that everybody was either melancholic about him or just very disappointed. Understandable, yes, because Lockdown, as you hear, is not the biggest deluxe. He especially is dwarfed by other deluxes. Ratchet, which is the exact opposite in most media, where Ratchet is usually dwarfed by Lockdown. Which especially is the case for this version of Lockdown, because he's actually based off of his Hunt for Decepticons figure, with his head being primarily based off that figure's head sculpt, which is pretty cool, I must say, because it is our first real G1-ified version of a movie character, technically. I mean, technically, because we do have other characters who are essentially that, so like Barricade, etc. But this is a figure that's technically wholly based off a movie design, even if it's not really technically official to the movie, and his canonization is kind of not necessarily something to be taken credit. However, Lockdown does come with a few accessories, primarily most of them being either from a few different figures, which is obviously Scrap Hook and Axel Grease, who I do own, but unfortunately she was delayed due to the holidays, so oh well. However, you can tell that the parts are most certainly reused on this figure in some minor areas, and some more actual larger ones, such as various joint parts here and there on the same Scrap Hook, and also a shirt on Lockdown. The exhaust are also, the technical exhaust has mufflers also apply. The doors, the legs, the calves, even the hooks are the same as well. So yeah, he's a very heavy retool, but does still retain those original parts. However, in the case if you do have Axel Squeeze, which I do technically, once again, so before I have, but she's have delayed due to the holidays. He's just a head swap of different color plastic, really. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Lockdown's general appearance. We're going for articulation, which is both really good but also kind of very hampered, because that's generally the problem with the Scrapbook mold, is that it's both really articulated in some areas but very limiting in others, especially since you have any accessories here. So first I'm going to remove his little shoulder cannon here, which I prefer to have there to homage like the movie version. So yeah, it has very limited shoulder articulation, which do have a tough time rotating around certain areas due to the massive shoulder pads. Very nice elbow articulation, which is a lot more structurally sound compared to his previous molds. A wrist rotation is also present. I believe it's called like a bicep rotation. Swivel at the head, no balls joint, unfortunately. Very nice kick both forward and back. A decent knee bend. Does not really like fully 90, but it does get the job done. But the ankle articulation is very nice. So yeah, that's definitely positive. For the second figure I'll be discussing, which will be, well, Road Pig, which I do have Road Pig's rival here. Also, that being Road Rocket. Oops. who was released during the first year of Legacy. So yeah, they do look pretty good together. It would be nice if Ropeg was redecorated into other characters as well, such as the Sideways Roadmaster's figure. So yeah, that would most certainly be pretty cool if they do that someday. But once again, he is a reuse of another character, that being, I forget his name. It's not Scrap Heap. It's I don't know. I keep forgetting his name. It always escapes me, but I'll put the name up here. But yeah, he's a retool of Retool says retool. He's the head of, once again, can't remember his name. So yeah, once again, this is my preferred modification of the figure, similar to like Knockdown over there with the shorter cannon. But yeah, he is very also limited in articulation in certain areas, but also so significantly better in others compared to Scrap Hook. So, as his figure falls down, he has a ball joint at the head, unlike Scrap Hook, which can easily come apart due to this loose part. Head panel, I believe it's called correctly. Can easily come off. Swivels at the shoulder, bicep, and wrist. And you also have some brace rotation, a knee swivel, and a knee bend that is basically only be hampered by the tires. As you can see right here, there is a nice, actually almost 90-degree bend of the knee. Well, this was like nothing at all. The ankle articulation is also even more consistent. Other side is pretty well articulated, especially since you can extend it forward and get a little more forward and back. However, on this side, it's a little bit better. I should have started. I think actually, sorry. I should have these legs swapped. But yeah, this is the more limited leg, and this is the more articulated leg. I was wondering, like, why was this transfer like not really cooperating like earlier when I was like doing my test? It's just I had the legs on the wrong side. But yeah, it is unfortunate that his legs are very limited in their articulation. So, Cannonball is very weird. So Cannonball is either the commanding officer or the captain of the Star Seekers, or is the second command in certain other cases. It definitely does vary with some tellings of the Star Seekers group, but generally Cannonball is usually at their first or second command. Now, he does have some QC here that is again tied very easily, but generally he is a retool of the skids / crankcase mold. To look more like Cybertron Red Alert, which does work out, but also not really, since Cybertron Red Alert they have his front end of the general, not vehicle, but the medical off-road vehicle, technically first aid vehicle. It's hard to describe, but generally it was never supposed to be in the front. It was supposed to be more or less on the back, I believe. Actually, no, sorry, it's supposed to be part of the legs. So, but generally this figure kind of transfers in reverse. It's kind of hard to try and explain, but in the simplest terms, the legacy figure transforms in reverse. So yeah, once again, very, very confusing. But yeah, once again, he just reused a lot of parts, like his arms, his thighs, his waist, his torso, not his torso, but his lower torso, his feet, his leg panels, even various joints in his posterior guns that are located above his shoulders. But generally, he has new parts here, like the Sarapanic key, the light bar, which is removable like other light bars, and his new adapter piece for his hammer or claw. So yeah, he can do the original figures gimmick, following the accessories plug onto here, as so. But unfortunately, due to these little crafts being so like deep in there, it's very hard to take them out and will kind of do number on your nail. But yeah, it does look pretty good with them out, even if his QC is very annoying. Hopes to see a Cybertron red alert from this figure soon-ish. However, we did get a new red alert for Armada / Age of the Prime, so best to say probably won't happen for a long time. The final deluxe I have here is Filch, who is a retool of Eraser, which probably for a second. But yeah, she's a retool of Kingdom Eraser with new head, legs, calves, knees, wings, new accessories, and I believe also mentioned I mentioned the head for the bird. Check out the Corvette, but the head is brand new, obviously. And also the back is new as well. But the back feathers are the same, including everything else, which also see the problem with this figure is very bad QC. But however, the figure herself is not that bad. I really like a Filch. She's probably like the most interesting bird former, because not understand this is more interesting because I'll technically also go to Eraser and Nezri others, but she's so interesting because she's the only Corvette I believe that we have in the toy line currently. And also, she's the only female deluxe, technically, that's also available for Star Seekers, because I'll get to that a little later. I might get the Calcitron, etc. But yeah, she's okay. She has the same articulation as King Eraser, which is hinged shoulders, hinged wrist, hinged elbows, a swivel for the bicep, ball joint at the head, which is very nice. A swivel, also very nice both forward and back kits, a very deep knee bend, very nice ankle articulation, but the ball joint at the foot is very limiting. I can go very much forward and back very well, however not so much side to side, which does suck, especially since these are so loose. And she was prone to like falling over. So yeah, she's a good figure, but generally it's just really annoying to handle. For the only Voyager of the line, technically, when you exclude like retail Thundertron, we also get Ferrac, which I only have the Generations Select Cyclonus, or G1 Cyclonus technically, which is Cyclonus that's called like a G1 figure. Which one's getting them off focus? There you go. Which, yeah, he does look pretty good. He's very accurate to his original Fun Pop figure, and also his range accurate for his original Marvel UK comic book appearance. I believe it's Marvel UK. However, Ferrac is kind of a better figure when it comes to Cyclonus, because he has better tolerances in certain areas, but also not the greatest in certain others. Like, his elbows are very tight, unlike this version of Cyclonus, which is just very floppy. That's maybe because the plastic of the Generation Select figures there was kind of very weird. But yeah, his plastic here is amazing, and his like tolerances are also as great as well. Which I didn't discuss this mold beforehand, which I will now. Which, because the articulation for Kingdom Cyclones was really good for the time. It still is to this day, but it does get a little bit overshadowed by other figures. However, he has a very nice head articulation, which is on a ball joint and also hinge shoulders, bicep swivel, hinge elbows, wrist rotation, which is tight, but you can make it work. A waist rotation, a very nice kick both forward and back, and a very deep knee bend, which can go a little further if you get a little more creative with it. But yeah, he's a very nice figure. And also forgot to mention the ankle articulation while trying to fix the knees. So yeah, very nice figure. Causes articulation overall. And also you can see, yeah, he does have the same general legs, feet, and mostly everything else, but the upper torso's very nice looking with its new parts and etc. Shoulders and wings as well. Head too, which is very accurate to the Fun Publications figure. And so the final figures that was released as a 3-pack, technically, yes, more or less is the leader, but yeah, it's supposed to be a 3-pack, which is Kazachan, Night Strike, or Night Scream, I believe. I can't remember his name, and Thundertron. Now, I like to preface this. I do not have the standard Voyager Thundertron. The biggest reason why is that when it was kind of rumored that we would be getting a Thundertron's original figure, and we saw like some prototype photos of it, and when it was finally revealed, I was like, okay, so I'm just gonna pass on it. And so did many others. I was contemplating to get him for this review, but I was like, I'm not gonna bother with it, even if I think that the standard version does have a slightly better color palette with more of that gold, this bronze. But I still like the 3-pack version more, doing 3-pack with very large quotations. First, I'll be discussing Kazachan, which kind of sort of confirms in the sense that most of the Infernac characters are associated with Thundertron, which makes sense because most of them are marauders or just bandits in general. Generally not very nice people, but I will be mainly reviewing the Infernac characters in their own review, some other dates, similar to the Junkions, as I mentioned earlier, which I'm just gonna move them aside because this is getting a little bit crowded here with all these other figures here. But I will be showing off, if I can reach them once again, because I do have the figure also, wing thing, which you can see that all the is not really the correct head. You can tell that, yeah, it is a retool of that. Technically, a redeco of I keep wanting to say Knock for Doe Dealer. I know it's definitely not Knock, that's for sure. I think it's Knock is the red one. The little Power Master group with the mouse up there. But yeah, Kazachan is, as mentioned before, a redeco of Magnius. Magnius, particularly, not so much in the case of Nucleus, and similar to, which I should have tossed him off, but I'll bring him back in. Not Granitron, I think it was called again. Kazachan, Granitron, I can't remember. Their heads and their general physique and bodies, etc., are more based off of the Diroids from the Headmaster's cartoon. So it's not still cartoon, but general anime, which is pretty cool, but also kind of strange in the sense that they're the only ones that actually look like them, even though they're supposed to be them. Weird. And I mean, the correct colors also in the case of Kazachan, not so much in the Granitron. I don't know. But yeah, his articulation is very good. He has hinged shoulders, a swivel at the bicep, ball joint to the wrist, can move in and out because of the transformation. Swivel at the head also is present. Swivel at the waist is also present. Also very nice board and back kicks. Very nice knee bend, which is hampered by the, I believe it's hampered by the parts here, which can move for a deer knee bend, which is a plus for many in their books. Not so much of mine, because I'm kind of very content with it. And a very nice ankle articulation, which can go both forward, a little bit back, and side to side. So yeah, the Magnus mold is very, very nicely articulated. Although I do prefer a Calcitron the most out of all of them, because man, that blue is just very, very nice. Gaudy, but nice. The ice cream was also kind of a figure that is okay, at least. It's a nice figure, another cassette to add to the collection. But I'm just go over his transformation now, since it's very simple. He turns into the flag of the Star Seekers. A simple, like Jolly Roger flag, but it works out. I believe it's supposed to be with the flag that you see in the publications, but not really, because it's supposed to be more or less related to the Star Seekers, because it's all Star Seekers Jolly Roger logo, which, unfortunately, that is. It's still cool, mind you, but it's not it. Alright, so Thunderdrum himself, particularly the Star Seekers Clutch version, only really has a singular relay accessory, which is a sword. His foot can be an accessory as well, because it's part of his leg gimmick. There goes Calcitron again. Which his articulation is also pretty good as well. Very nice ball joint at the neck, which is hampered by the kibble around him. He has very nice shoulders, which can move aside for the arm articulation, which was again hinges, swivels, wrist rotation, the waist rotation, which is very limited due to the kibble once again, and also his tail, which is articulated as well. He has a very nice knee and general leg articulation, which knee articulation, as before, it's very nice as it goes pretty far in. Another knee cut and a calf cut, which is very weird. Articulated, not commas, but cape coats, I believe. Trench coats? Can't remember what it's called. But yeah, he has articulated comma. Articulated comma. But his foot articulation is very nicely mobile. Not so mobile, but very... sorry. It's a lot more free than the one that's here, where since it is a removable piece, which it falls again. Which, unlike the foot, which is a removable piece, it's in general not as articulated. It can move forward and back, mind you, very nicely, but not so much side to side. But the foot can, which is intentional, mind you. But I don't know, I just find that a little cheap. But yeah, that's all for the role modes of all the characters. They are all very well articulated, but generally, they are limited in many cases. Especially in Thunderdrum's case, where I feel like he's probably the most limiting, even though he's supposed to use swordsman. Swashbuckling swordsman, mind you. So I kind of wish he was a little more articulated. And with that, let's move on to the transformations for all the figures. Alright, so let's first start off with Calcitron, because he's relatively the most simplest figure of all of them to transform, besides Ice Cream. I think it's an Ice Cream. Still don't know his name. Yeah, just move all that. How that combine with that. Alright, so now the main body of the vehicle. Yeah, that's actually wrong side. Expect the arms to fly off. But yeah, is there one that goes in there? Bunch of that. Pickaxe goes there. And let's pause it before to grab the stuff. Alright, so I got the stuff that fell on the floor, for which he'll finally complete his transformation into his little not necessarily race truck, but yeah, his little racing truck mode that's also made of stone. But yeah, looks very nice. The other figure I'm going to transform is, I figured it's much harder to transform because his difficulty is mostly in the tolerances of the figure not being the greatest, which is Cannonball, which transforms very similarly to all the other versions of this mold. So if you really owned one beforehand, there's nothing really that different. Put a lot of stuff in them. Bind. There we go. Now that's in place. You just shift all this in, squish it together, like so, and how's that really lined up? How's it water? And then it should be like there. There is Cannonball in his little van mode, which he does have a different skeleton decal inside of his car door. Next one is Lockdown, who, like, once again, the other Junkion figures, transforms exactly the same. Which I do recommend moving the... Actually, no, sorry. This is Lockdown. Don't do that, because previous figures here were pretty much forced to remove the limbs because of the tire tolerances, but this figure has much looser ones, which means that you got much more smoother time transforming him both from and out of vehicle mode, or technically from roll mode to vehicle mode, or took out of it. Hard to explain, technically say, but generally that is what I mean. So yeah, transform that. Move all these parts here. Here's his arm. And good as his front port. So now it's Crash Bar. Crash Bar is his name. That was for Road Pig. So yeah, that was the character's name. That was the original mold that Road Pig uses. It was Crash Bar, I believe. Or unless I'm still wrong. I might be. It very well might be. Pulls inward. Just run to there. you just kind of like push it inward like that, which is once again easier said than done, but it should be like that general configuration for underneath. Slap the posterior end to their engine, and you're pretty much almost done. You just had to put on these little exhaust pipes / mufflers, and the hook attaches to the rear like so, and there is locked down in his very much animated inspired vehicle mode. It looks real nice in these colors. It is once again obviously a redeco of Axle Grease's vehicle mode, but it looks so much better in these colors. I still like Axle Grease's colors, but man, Lockdown still has like locked in. Funny, because these colors. So for Road Pig, it's a little bit more difficult in the sense that I believe his crash bar, his transformation is very, very good, but it's also kind of very complex. Mainly just because you have to get in a certain order operations for you to really be able to do anything with it. Love that automorphic gimmick in that scene's figure. But yeah, you get in certain order operations for this figure to really function. And if you do it correctly, you might generally be dealing with many problems, such as the problem that is seen on both figures, being Crash Bar and Road Pig. His arm pops off, is like the correct positioning of his hand, because you're actually supposed to have it rotated on the right hand inwards instead of outwards, like that, so that it won't essentially not apply more stress, but won't like completely ruin the vehicle mode's front end, because it technically warps it. Very confusing, but that's what happens. So there's the front end of the motorcycle, and there's the posterior end. So yeah, very nice. You also attach the guns to the back as the satchels, which is very easy compared to the rest of the figure. And the exhaust pipes, or technically the laser route technically, it plugs into here and supposed to like slide it into the slot here. And there's Road Pig in his vehicle mode, motorcycle mode. So very nice. For Filch, transforms once again like her original figure, technically mold, which was Eraser, but slightly different. Since you have to do some parts forming, like pretty much everybody in this set uses parts forming, except for like Cannonball, where you just attach her wings there, put the back, shimmy it upward, plugs in like that. Rotate the head like so, which is much tighter than the original one, which means there's a 50-50 chance it might pop off the head, since it is on like one of those ball joints that not really that thin, but more just something to be wary of, where it's thin enough to be kind of scary when it does pop off, because you might get the impression that you might have broken something. So, yeah, definitely just have some sort of caution with that when you're transforming this figure. Caution and very gentle care is required. Of course, not so much for me, because I would like to manhandle my figures transformation to show off the durability. Because they show durability because they're toys. Everybody knows kids love to throw things around. And also these toys have to be very durable to handle those throw sounds. Is that lined up? There we go. So yeah, there's Filch in her Cobra mode. Does it? This is focus again. Very nice. Once again. Finally, before we get to Thundertron, the last figure that is a leader and is also the last Voyager technically, because once again I do not have the Voyager Thundertron. Ferak once again transforms like his original mold figure, technically. That figure that shares the mold with him. It's hard to really explain, like what to call it. But yeah, fold these upwards, fold these downwards like so, and yeah, just kind of like you push in the legs very, very like deeply. I do recommend removing the not blasters, but they're missiles. They're not really given like any sort of particular name, but I just recommend like moving those, removing them to make it easier. Open up this. Those come. Fuselage. Close it up. Put this around. It should plug on together. Open the hands. Swap around. Rotate them. Same with the other side. Like so. Very easy transformation. I love its buttery smoothness. There we go. And you reattach those missile/blasters. Once again, it's kind of like not really knowing what they're supposed to be, but they're supposed to be blasters from my knowledge. Attach the large blaster on top and deploy the landing gear. And there you have Ferak and his little Cybertronic jet mode. / personal firecraft and interceptor. So yeah, very nice. Move him aside. That's all we do now is deal with Thundertron, which Thundertron's transformation is. Just I can move the camera up a little bit. It's pretty good, I must admit. I really do like this transformation. However, it is not the greatest in the grand scheme of things. I do like certain parts of transformation. I do consider it be like a really nice transformation for a feline, yeah, feline, the transformer. Feline is the 4K human mutant. But yeah, feline transforming character. It works the best, mind you, in some cases, but in others, like I don't know, it's not as good. Not as good as Cheetor, or even like Tigatron, King Tigatron. Like most of these Kingdom figures, and I guess by extension, the car version of Lyle Convoy, which fixes some of the problems on the American version, or technically Legacy version, which I do want to own that figure someday. But yeah, this transformation is, I like it. It works. It's efficient in its motion. But I don't know, it's just, I'm not feeling it whenever I transform it. Shift up this piece, and it should plug into this little tab here, like so. Trying to do this like, but it's very difficult with all these tolerances. You have to like push all this in there. There we go, I finally got it. So it's better just to like attach these arms first and then connect them together, like so, if it wants to, mind you. There we go. Oh, that's why. To there, and there you go. You have his line mode. Technically, it's Cybertronic line mode. So you just get it all posed up. Very messy in the back, unfortunately. That's kind of the thing with all feline transformers. It's just very messy in the back. Like, you can fix it up. But yeah, it's just not the greatest. And this looks, as I try to fix it, because he's having like a really hard time to stand up. There we go. So yeah, that's all these Star Seekers, and for like a little like set of figure size general collection, I really like them. However, I know for a fact that many people aren't like very particularly fond of them because they're very niche, especially since only really like 3 figures in this set are really noteworthy or sought after, that being Cannonball, Lockdown, Thundertron. Everybody else is usually kind of like really not people are interested in or really willing to collect. Ferric, especially, and Filch are not really that particularly beloved by the fandom, especially since they're so very minor in their appearances. They're very underrated, they're very obscure. They're not really like preferred bond. Roadpig also same applies, but for a different reason, because Roadpig is the rival to Road Rocket. A lot of people don't really like Road Rocket and General RC mode, so that's also kind of a big no-no. And the Casatron and Night Strike, I believe his name is. Again, don't remember. Same thing there. Night Strike, already cassette. We only reverse people really like the cassettes from Siege and Beyond. And Casatron falls into the same problem as other figures, where it's just you only really want to get him when if you have like all the other like Inferni characters. And for the reason everyone just passed off. For that reason, I only recommend these figures if you're willing to, I don't know, if you're a completionist or you just really like the Star Seekers in general. I got them because I just really like the Star Seekers in general. I always found them to be a very interesting faction. A faction that's incredibly mysterious, a faction that's going to be expanded upon, and a faction that pretty much that whenever it appears, it usually means that something's gonna get canceled or something's gonna end. In this case, it was Legacy, which is a funny thing to see again, because I was there to view them pretty much reappearing after years of them being gone from Prime in Funimation, and not that long after Funimation just die off, which is unfortunate to say the least. But yeah, that's all for this Thanksgiving special review. I guess the simple thing I could really say would be to just cap off this video is, well, happy Thanksgiving. Hope you have an interesting fun time with your families, etc. I most certainly will by the time this video is released, hopefully so. I'm not sure at this point. Work schedule is very much booked. And with that, yeah, that's all for this review. Like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully I shall see you next time. Bye.